Hey guys, Whitney here. Welcome to another episode of the Passive Investing Made Simple show. I'm your host, Whitney Elkins-Hutten, the Director of Investor Education here at PassiveInvesting.com. This is a live show that we do every Tuesday to help you understand the ins and outs of passive investing so you can go into your next deal with confidence. So if you haven't done so already, make sure to check out PassiveInvestingWithWhitney.com. There you can get access to additional episodes of the show, register for future episodes of this show, and our monthly skills boot camps. You can get access to my calendar if you want to talk all things passive real estate and priority access to our deals here at PassiveInvesting.com. Now, I want to bring in today's guest. And for everybody that's here, I want to applaud you for being here because today is going to be one of those amazing days that we get to talk to our very own Director of Finance, Tal Brody. Tal, welcome to the show.
Hi, Whitney. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Tal has broken the internet before. It's funny because like I am all the time. I'm not always the one that wants to talk about the numbers, the strategy, but so many of our investors want to understand like not just taxes. We're not going to get into taxes today, but really all those things that we need to prepare for tax season when it comes related to your passive investment. And so, but I'm just excited to have you on the show today because, we don't get to see enough of you, Tal. So Tal, why don't
Great
you
to be
take it?
back.
Yeah,
Thank you. So as Whitney said, I have been on the show before. We went through a deep dive of the K-1 and it got quite a lot of views. So feel free to go back and reference that. We won't do that again this time. Not much has changed in the body of the K-1. But for those who didn't see it or who don't know who I am Tal. I'm the Director of Finance for PassiveInvesting.com. And I oversee all of our finance, accounting, and taxes for all of our various business lines. So multifamily storage, hotels, car washes, our debt fund, everything and anything under the sun if it comes down to finance, accounting, and tax. So today we just wanted to talk through what happens before tax season and just some things to think through. So just a little bit more about me for those who don't know. This will be almost my second year with PassiveInvesting.com. I'm a CPA. I started in public accounting with Deloitte, spent 5 years in public accounting, and then went into investment management in New York before moving back to South Carolina, where I live now in Greenville. And now I'm serving the real estate private equity field. So I've loved my experience here at PassiveInvesting.com. We've built a tremendous team that services all of our investors and our businesses. And I'm happy to share a little bit more about what we do and what I think could be helpful for you. So what's next, Whitney?
Let's dive in. So, as I think most people are preparing, or especially investors that are listening to this, they're preparing for the holidays, especially we're recording this the week of Thanksgiving. They don't have taxes on their mind, but a good operator should be preparing for tax season now and leading their investors through that process. So guys, I know this is like a horrible time to be asking questions about taxes, but it is the most important thing that you could be focused on right now to help your operator. Can you make this a seamless K-1 or seamless tax season for you? So we were going back and forth, and we identified kind of 3 different steps we need to, that we do here at PassiveInvesting.com that you should look for either to work with us on or with your operator on. And Tal, what's the first thing that investors should be looking for in order to make this a seamless K-1 season for them?
Right. So as an investor, you're probably receiving emails right now from the operator saying, review your information in whatever investor management portal that they have or however they're keeping that information. So that's step 1 is review the information that you have either input in your PPM as a new investor, or that might be included on your K-1 from last year. And I start by making sure that the tax ID number is the correct tax ID number. So make sure it's in the proper format. So a social security number if you're an individual investor, or an EIN format if you're investing through an entity or some other type of partnership, LLC, that kind of thing. So that's step 1. The tax ID number should be correct. If it's not, reach out to that operator and get that straightened out right now.
And I know for me, and I've made this mistake, I'll click into the portal and I'll like look and I'm like, yep, that tax ID number looks correct. But that actually is just the first step. What's the second step that the investor should now take to
Right.
make sure that this is a good process or a seamless process for them?
So something that seemed to create a lot of confusion over the last 2 years was the understanding of a single member LLC. And that's important because the IRS considers single member LLCs a disregarded entity. So all the taxation for that entity is passed through to the beneficial owner. So you might log in and see your social security number or your LLC's EIN number, but you need to think through that. Am I the beneficial owner of the single member LLC that's invested? And does my operator have that ultimate beneficial owner's information? So unfortunately, our system doesn't track both of those pieces of information. So our investor services team has to work with each and every one of our investors once they've flagged the entity as a single member LLC to make sure we have that UBO information tracked separately in our records. So same for any other operator. Do they have both pieces of that information? Because that is important. Your UBO information, your ultimate beneficial owner information, will be included in that upper section of the K-1. And then there's actually another section below that that will identify the single member LLC's name and the corresponding tax ID number for that entity.
And I think that's such an important step for people to really take a look at, right? I know for me, when I actually started looking at a two-step approach, I uncovered one of my investments that was titled to the incorrect entity to begin with,
Right.
right?
It can
And
happen so easily, especially for many of these investors who have so many different single member LLCs or investing through different channels. Like, it's so important just to back up and think, okay, what was my intention with this investment? Where is the taxation really rolling to?
Mhm.
And then
Okay,
let me just add one more point there. Sorry, before we continue. There is an exception to the whole premise of a single member LLC. You can, as an investor, file Form 8832 and elect to tax that single member LLC as an S Corp or a C Corp. So just as important as it is to make sure we have the UBO information, it's also important to let the operator know if that entity is taxed as a C Corp or an S Corp, because that also needs to be flagged in the K-1.
ooh, so many moving parts here.
So
Okay,
many
so
moving pieces.
so the investor should log into their portal or communicate with their operator somehow. Make sure that one, investments titled to the right entity with the right social security number, or individual, right? Right party, titled correctly with the right either social security number or tax ID, and
Right.
that the correct paperwork or boxes have been checked to the ultimate beneficiary.
Yep.
Or that form 8832 has been filed to elected as an S Corp or a C Corp.
Right. And let's add one more simple check to this. It's so easy to input a long string of numbers for your tax ID number. It's more beneficial if your operator has that tax ID number in the proper format. So is it a social security number, or is it an EIN number that has 2 digits followed by the dash followed by the rest of the digits? From a tax preparer or from the IRS's standpoint, that format of the tax ID number is an automatic indication of who's investing. So that really just needs to be identified rather than just throwing in a bunch of digits and not knowing or understanding if it's your social security number or an EIN number. It seems basic, but we get a lot of just strings of numbers.
Yeah, anything you can do to make this clear, right? Communication,
Right.
and the clarity in the communication. All right, so we've got the first couple steps down. What about if somebody has invested through an IRA account or a checkbook LLC?
Right. We have so many investors using this method of investment. It has a lot of benefits. But I will say a lot of people are new to investing through their IRA and just take a whack at it. I never encourage that. Go through your custodian, have them hold your hand the first time you do this to make sure that the custodian's providing you with the correct information that should be in your K-1. Ultimately, you should not have your social security number attached to your IRA at all because it should be non-taxable. So you will almost always be including the custodian's name, their address and their identification number in your K-1. So that's extremely important. Make sure you're going through your custodian before you even sign the PPM to ensure that your investment is in the correct name. Alternatively, just moving on, if you're invested through a checkbook IRA, most people set up a single member LLC that owns that checkbook IRA. So this has caused confusion in years prior because the investor might say, this is a single member LLC, its ultimate beneficial owner is me, and they'll provide their social security number. That's incorrect. You need to be putting that the single member LLC is the owner of a self-directed IRA or a checkbook IRA. So ultimately, your K-1 should have that box I-2 that shows it's a retirement account checked. So again, use your custodian, lean on your custodian, use your tax advisor to make sure you are providing the right information, your PPM, to the operators, to the investor services team, to ensure that that information flows through properly in your K-1 so that you will have the best tax outcome.
Okay. Well, if that wasn't confusing enough, which hopefully
I was confusing.
But no, this is great, right? Like, so anybody that has any questions right now, we send out the recording of this episode to anybody here, or if you're listening to it after the fact on our YouTube page or your favorite podcast player of choice, back it up, rewind it. Repetition is the mother of skill, because I guarantee in bookmark it for every tax season, right? Because there are changes, there's nuance changes, but this will help you understand that it's not just about checking a number. You got to make sure it's the right entity and the right structure, and there's a few more moving parts here. But there's one more, piece that people need to take to heart when they're going through. And this doesn't have to take a whole bunch of time, like 5 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Not a whole lot of time. But what is the other moving part that investors need to be aware of as they're looking to like helping their operator prepare for tax season?
Right. So during the year, you may transfer your interest from one entity to another entity, or from being an individual investor into an entity. So during this time, it's imperative to go log into your portal to make sure that the investment is actually sitting in the transferee name that you intended for the investment to be sitting in. So we actually sent an email out to our investors that requested that they log on, confirm that that's correct. And we also let them know that more likely than not, they will receive 2 K-1s for that investment, one to close out their original ownership in the transferor's name, and then one with the new transferee's name showing their ending balance for their active investment at that time.
Okay. So, well, I'm going to run through the high bullet points here.
Okay, let's see.
You're going to log in. And I want to make sure I get this, right? Because I actually, like, as you go through and you said, a couple of things here, I'm like, ooh, I need to go back into my portals and make sure that this little I-2 box is checked. Mm-hmm. Okay. So number one, log in, respond to your operator, making sure that you're compliant with all the asks. 2, make sure that the entity, that the asset is titled to the right individuals, entity, right? What did you originally intend? That the right social security number, EIN number are attached to that. Mm-hmm. Then we start getting down into, are the right boxes or the right information provided for it being a single member LLC or an S Corp or a C Corp, or even like, do you have the qualified beneficiary information on there? Not qualified beneficiary, you called it
ultimate beneficial owner.
Ultimate beneficial owner. Yeah. I knew
UBO
I got that.
Is how we slang it. UBO.
I knew I got that incorrect. And then if you invested in an IRA, make sure that you aren't putting yourself as the ultimate beneficiary owner, because guess what? You're not, right? The IRA is. Okay. Even if it's a checkbook LLC, make sure that that ultimate beneficiary or owner is not going to you, that it's going through the custodian account. And then if you transferred your interest at any point in time during that year, that you're making sure that you're getting, the information is correct for both, right? The transferor, mm-hmm. I'm saying that sometimes. And the transferee, right? And then, and just know that you're probably going to get 2 K-1s in that year. And that's correct. That's the correct way of doing it.
Mhm.
Anything else that you want to add here?
I would say just be cognizant of this time. I know it is the holidays, but the more that you can do on the front end, the more pain-free it will be on the back end. So, for example, we've given our investors till the end of this month to go in and make sure all their information is correct. And then the first week of December, we're actually exporting all the investor rosters and sending them over to our tax team so that they can already start the preliminary process of getting these returns started. So at that point, they'll upload the rosters into their system, and then the investors' information will be there throughout the preparation of the tax return. So once we issue your K-1s to you in March, we'll typically try to allow some time for you to review it and request any changes, but that will ultimately delay your K-1 to you. So if you can just check this information on the front end, it'll be a more speedy, easier, pain-free process on the back end.
Awesome. Well, Tal, thank you so much for joining us today. Guys, if you're here live, we are going to start our Ask Me Anything session. But anyways, again, thank you everybody for taking the time to be here. Not only spending your time with us, but investing in yourself. All right, guys, if you're here live, don't go anywhere.